I wait for the internet to say, Ron, we're doing it. I wait for the internet to give me permission. Here it goes. You know me, I don't believe it until I see it. If I don't see it, it's not real. It's fake unless I see it. And I'm about to see it. It's coming. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. There it is. There it is. I have seen it, and it is good. And I know some of you have been seeing it for a minute. There's a lull. That's how it goes. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon to all my East Coasters. Good evening, if it's evening where you're at. And, of course, good morning to my fellow West Coasters. Still morning. We're a little later than usual, but we're here. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. Shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. Our friends over at ZT.com, CHITEA.com. Their tea kind of rules. They supply the tea to this show. Raspberry Pecan, Monk's Blend, two of my personal favorites. And there might be a Ron tea coming out. Fingers crossed. We're talking about it. I'm hoping it happens. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it happens. But hold tight on that. I'm excited for the potential there. Also, our friends over at triageoil.com, TRIAGE oil.com. Trendy name makes topical pain oil you put on your body. It works wonders for my neck. And he educates the public on cannabis issues with his show. And it is a good time. So check that out, triageoil.com. And some of you guys know we are currently demonetized on YouTube. The channel is going through some transitions right now, some changes I had to make. And we're working on fixing that up soon and getting remonetized. But in the meantime, if you want to make a show contribution to the show, my Venmo, I'm just going to put my Venmo in the chat. That's the best way to do it. Or, of course, patreon.com/Ron Placone is, of course, another way to support the show. And I'm going to put both of those in the chat real quick. There it is. Boom. So, yeah, you know the drill. And thank you for bearing with me through this time. And thank you for everyone who has been so generous in the interim. All right, without further ado, I am so excited about my guest today. We have been going back and forth about getting her on the show for a while. And she's here today. You already know her. You know her from RuPaul's Drag Race. You know her from the movie Party Girl. You know her from the roast of Pam Anderson, which was one of my favorite Comedy Central roasts. That was such a fun roast. Without further ado, please welcome to the show, Lady Buddy. Lady Buddy, how are you?
I'm good, Ron. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks so much for doing this today.
Sorry I'm late. You know how those drag queens are. Like I said, this wig looks like it was styled at the Capitol on January 6th. It's a bit of a mess. And then you should have seen me trying to be butch and get the backdrop up with actual nails. That was a sight.
That's a cool backdrop. I dig your backdrop.
I have to do a happy birthday thing for Jody Watley after this, so I wanted to do something music oriented.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Well, we're going to go through some news of the day, then we're going to chat with you. And so one of the things that is breaking right now, as of the recording of this, as you know, folks, the impeachment is
my
going
girdle.
on.
My girdle is breaking. It is breaking. I had a large breakfast and lunch and haven't been in drag in a while. No, I'm sorry to interrupt. Your first headline. I'm off.
No, you're fine. No, please. It's but yeah, the impeachment is going on. And here's what Democracy Now! Had to say about it. So House is to impeach Trump, and this would make him the first president to be impeached twice. You know, remember it happened the first time, and then Trump had to deal with the consequences of getting everything he wanted. So here's an interesting sentence, though, to me. The New York Times reports Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell believes Trump committed impeachable offenses and privately supports Democrats' efforts to remove him, which he hopes will help purge Trump from the Republican Party. And I got to say, I get where people are at with this thing. It's a little frustrating to see a government that has done virtually nothing during a pandemic that all of a sudden is acting on this. But what I will say at the end of the day, no matter what happens, and this is happening in real time, by the time you watch this, or if you listen to the podcast later, there's probably going to be more information that we don't know yet as of the recording of this. But no matter what happens, this is my reminder for everybody. Trump is the GOP. The GOP is Trump. Don't let anybody try to tell you otherwise. Don't celebrate people like Mitch McConnell. Don't celebrate. They are the same thing.
Or Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney, the new
Yes.
resistance hero.
Oh my, yes. Thank you. I mean, is that frustrating to you? I mean, it's frustrating
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, very frustrating and very crazy because, people are praised in the Democratic Party based on how hard they will lash out at Donald Trump. And, I finally had to tell one of my fellow drag queens, why are you ranting about Stormy Daniels all the time? And, and that was when Michael Avenatti was like, I mean, to me, he looked like he was on steroids and really, angry or whatever. But they were saying they were in love with him, that they wanted him to be president. And now isn't he in jail for defrauding Nike? And so it's like, we have to look, that was who we wanted as our president. So it's not just about how hard we can lash out at Trump, so impeachment might be the hardest way to lash out, but is that smart? I mean, there's what, 8 days left? I will be the first to say, I don't know the legal implications of Trump being impeached. I don't know. So the appeal is that he wouldn't be able to run again, right?
Yes. Yeah, there are. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Most of the consequences, like the only significant consequences would be, at least my understanding of it, would really be if he faced actual charges after all this, like after the impeachment, if he were to face some actual charges, which I'd be surprised if he actually did. I mean, usually, powerful people don't really face consequences for what they do. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney face zero consequences for being war criminals. That's just usually how it goes with the powerful. But BuzzFeed actually did this that kind of shows this is what would actually happen. So if this goes through, these are the actual consequences. He may not be able to run for office again. If the Senate removes him from office, it would take another vote to disqualify them from running for office ever again. Only a simple majority would be needed, which the Democrats would have. Here's another one. He might, and might is in asterisks here, lose some benefits that ex-presidents typically enjoy. There's a basic pay. A surviving spouse gets $20,000 a year. Donald Trump has already enriched himself beyond measure while in office, so I don't think this will have any impact on his life whatsoever. He might lose Secret Service protection, but probably not.
Well, I mean that getting rid of his benefits seems to be petty. I mean, I'm on the left. I don't like anything about, Trump, but right. It's like, it's like this idea of like, oh, get him. And we know from the first impeachment that it never had any chance of going anywhere because 2/3 of the Senate was not going to vote to impeach him. And not to mention that, Ralph Nader advised Nancy Pelosi to go after Trump in the first impeachment on charges that would stick, and she decided not to go that route. So, I mean, our Democrats run the risk of looking, petty if they aren't getting the checks out, if they aren't doing something on healthcare, if they aren't doing something on student, loans. So it's like I don't know what would have to happen, but now we're seeing a few Republicans say that they would vote to impeach Donald Trump. Are 2/3 going to do it? Because the Democrats have a majority, but it's very, very slim. And then there's the Democrats like, the West Virginia Manchin,
who
could flip and become, Republicans. This is why some litmus tests are a good idea.
Imagine. But don't forget this last consequence here. This is a big one. There would be damage to his political status and reputation. Something Trump has never done on his own. He's never done that. He doesn't do that every time he speaks. So, go ahead.
But would you get it through the 2/3 in the Senate, even after with the Democratic majority? in the Senate? Would you get that? I don't know. Is that another pipe dream that that Democrats want to involve themselves, like the first impeachment, like Russiagate, that they want to fill up their time with while they ignore health care in a pandemic? I don't know. But I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them do both. Yeah, I don't know what. Also, it's like, I understand the impulse to keep someone like Trump away from being able to run. But at the same time, as I said in 2016, what does it say if you lose to Trump? What does it say about Hillary Clinton if you lose to Trump? And they have the same low approval ratings. So now Trump was in office for 4 years, mishandled the pandemic, was caught, calling the Georgia election official, caught on in that interview with Bob Woodward saying, peddle the virus as not as dangerous as it is as the whole country, collapses. I mean, but then again, I don't understand why people, converged on the Capitol to dispute Joe Biden's win. I don't know where they're getting their information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
I just think you sum up the frustrations that people feel very well. I mean, I think you nailed it. It's like, okay, you guys. I mean, I kind of tweeted where it's like, when things happened at the Capitol, their Congress' first instinct was, well, we're going to go on vacation. That was nuts. And then the public was like, you can't go on vacation right now. Okay, we'll do a performative impeachment thing. What about helping people? Okay, we'll help you. We're going to set the groundwork for a new Patriot Act. And you're like, oh. Really? Well, really? That's what we're doing?
Performative is the operative word. We need to see what the chances are. And I will admit to not knowing all the ins and outs of the law regarding impeachment, but they cannot be seen as doing stuff that is performative when we are in a crisis. And while I would not bring, guns and crosses or wear Nazi stuff, people need to go to the Capitol or protest somewhere, because everyone, including the people in the, on the left who I, like, they all got a 5,600-page bill at 2 p.m. and were told to vote on it that night with a $600 stimulus check after a $1,200, stimulus check. So this is absolutely crazy. I mean, was it that stimulus that 1.2 in military aid to Egypt and half that approximately to Israel went in, and money for the Kennedy Center? It's closed.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many weird things in there. There was like money for people who own horses, who own racing horses. I mean, there were so many ridiculous things where it's like, this is just a giveaway to the rich again. And I saw a headline that said, what is it saying about a country that just looks out for billionaires during a pandemic?
Or for a woke wish list, like however much money they gave to Pakistan for gender programs. As a member of the LGBT community, I would like to see my people protected in Pakistan, but if this is for something else, I mean, I don't live in Pakistan. Let their Congress handle it. Why are we peddling gender programs in Pakistan when people who have done everything right in their lives are find themselves waiting in food bank lines? I think that the gender programs in Pakistan can wait.
Yeah, I mean, it's and especially since it's like, we're not getting stuff right at home. Why would we get it? Why would we get it right elsewhere?
Right.
I mean,
so what? Yeah. Well, I mean, or why are we concerned with elsewhere when we are in a crisis? And so.
Yeah. So, well, there's some good news today that I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. First of all, one of the big missions of this show aside from just being a show, I'm really big on municipal broadband, which is city-owned internet, and I'm really big on net neutrality. Those are issues I'm very, very passionate about. And a cool thing is happening today where it's kind of goodbye, see you later. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. That's so here's the cool news. I'm excited about this. This was tweeted out by Evan Greer, friend of the show. She has been crushing it lately. She's the deputy director of Fight for the Future, and they are my favorite digital rights organization who I've had the honor of collaborating with on a couple campaigns, and they've been nailing it lately, per usual. And here's what she tweets: "A glimmer of hope in this hellscape. Today, this is going on today. This is Ajit Pai's last meeting ever as the chairman of the FCC." And Evan says, "We are going to reverse pretty much everything he has done within the next 2 years." And I'm with her. We're going to frickin' do that. And here's the tweet from the FCC. "We're now streaming the final open meeting under Chairman Ajit Pai, FCC. Goodbye, Ajit Pai." Ajit Pai, of course, is the person who repealed net neutrality along with the Trump FCC. Now, look, I'm not somebody that has optimism about Joe Biden. The Biden administration has promised to appoint a pro-net neutrality FCC head. They have promised to do that. But my mom taught me a long time ago, actions speak louder than words. And some of Joe Biden's actions have been starting his campaign with Comcast executives. So it's up to us to make sure he keeps that promise and does appoint a pro-net neutrality FCC head. And they're probably still going to be a lousy FCC head. They're probably still going to be a pro-cable company FCC head. But as long as they vote the right way and we get net neutrality back, that's all that really matters. Lady Bunny, your thoughts?
I know that net neutrality is supposed to be something that progressives support, but I am like a tech dunce and can barely wrap my head around getting this. I was late for your show. So I'm going to leave that to the Evan Greers. I mean, if it's undoing things that Trump did that are, I get the basic principle of net neutrality. And, the internet is very, deceptive, and it shouldn't, like if you Google a restaurant, the seamless ad for the seamless site for the restaurant comes up first, not the restaurant site. So, I mean, it is something where you pay to get prominence, and my understanding is that net neutrality would make it harder to find news that wasn't, corporate.
Yeah, I mean, the loss of net neutrality basically means like content providers can have their content prioritized based on their ability to pay. There can be designated fast lanes and slow lanes, and that big cable companies could charge accordingly. So it could make the internet into cable television 2.0, essentially, where it's like, oh, you want to be able to go to Twitter or Facebook, you need our social media package, and that's an extra $20 a month. So it would allow them to price gouge we, the consumers, more than they already do. And it would allow blatant prioritization and discrimination against internet traffic. And it would crush independent media because, independent media wouldn't be able to pay those fees, but the CNNs and Fox Newses of the world would. So that's what's at stake with net neutrality. It's been, since net neutrality has been repealed, we've been fighting it out in the courts, and states have passed net neutrality bills. We have one here in California. That's why people haven't seen the effect of a post-net neutrality world, because folks have been fighting on the front line. So whenever someone's like, net neutrality is not important because the internet's still fine. Yeah, it's still fine because people are holding the fort down and they're fighting back against big cable by getting net neutrality bills through. But yeah, that's essentially what's going on there. So it's up to us.
Good news. We like good news.
I got some more for you. So yeah, there's some cool stuff today, and you're a really good person to talk about it with, because the last thing pertains to live performance, an arena that you and I both dwell in. But here's something. Friend of the show, Mel Telekarebne, runs an organization called Shower of Hope. They provide showers to homeless people in Los Angeles. And here is some really freaking good news. they are featured. This is happening today. This is actually happening. Well, I guess it happened shortly before the recording of this. The Shower of Hope was featured on the Kelly Clarkson Show today on NBC. So they're shining a spot on their work, which I cannot think of a more deserving organization for. Well, there's a lot of deserving organizations, but this is a very deserving organization of this, and I could not be happier for them. Have you ever worked with Kelly Clarkson? Is that somebody in your wheelhouse or?
No, no. I thought you were going to ask me if I was ever homeless. I was.
I was too. I was too. I was on the road full time when I was though, so I don't really know if it counts. Like I didn't have a residence, but I was also on the road 45 weeks a year. So it's like whenever I had a gig, I'd be in a hotel room, and then whenever I didn't have a gig, I would just crash with friends. Typically, there were only a handful of nights where it was like I'm crashing in a rest area. I don't know what your situation was like, but that was mine.
Similar, but I did mine with RuPaul back in Atlanta in the 80s. And we both lost our lease, and we would just basically show up at the club and wait until anybody that would take us in would take us in. So
I am so excited to talk to you about this stuff. And because I'm so intrigued by I love scenes, like just music scenes, comedy scenes, cultural scenes. And I am really intrigued to find out like what that was like going through that. And I mean, y'all were pioneers of like a movement.
I'm not
right?
that old.
Is that fair? Okay, all right, all right.
Pioneers, yeah. We were pioneers, but we've just been at it for a while. And the Atlanta scene was, I got my start in Atlanta with or Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I was raised, and then moved to Atlanta. But we were part of the straight rock, mixed rock scene. And so, unlike a lot of, drag queens, I didn't really come up in discos. I work in them now, but so my experience was a little bit different with like live music. And I'm trying to think of some of the bands. Well, of course, it was the B-52s were from Athens, which is, a couple hours away. RuPaul and I go dance for a band called the Now Explosion. 10,000 Maniacs were from there. Pylon was. I have these are ancient references. I have no idea if rock and roll people even know who these bands are anymore. But yeah, it was.
I definitely know.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so when did you leave Chattanooga? Which, by the way, I don't know what it was like when you grew up there, but I wanted to run this by you. I think Chattanooga these days is maybe the most underrated city in the country. Like, do you ever go back there? Did you have a fondness for it or no?
It was a good place to grow up, and I did see my parents last Christmas there. But I was eager to get away, and I wanted the bright lights in the big city, so I went to Atlanta and then here. But I think they are prized for their universal internet.
Yeah, they were one of the first to do municipal. Yeah, they're Gig City USA. They were one of the first to do municipal broadband. And yeah, I lived in Nashville for a couple years, and I was on the road, so I'd go through Chattanooga a lot, and it's just a really neat place. There's a lot. I mean, there are occasionally those reminders that you are still in red state America. Just little things like you have to show an ID twice whenever you go into a bar. But but it I don't know. It's just a really neat place that often goes under the radar. And yeah, I've always thought Chattanooga was just really cool.
It has cool things about it, but when you view it from the perspective of 15 years and there's nothing going on here. I'm young and I want, nightclubs and, exciting creatures of the night. It was like, how soon can I get out of here? So, it was a nice place to grow up, but I my memories aren't so fond, and I haven't really kept in touch with many outside of my family who are there.
Sure. So when did you go to Atlanta? How old were you? Like what was that excursion?
About 22. So last year. Just kidding. I moved there when I was about 2020 and moved to New York two years later because we thought, we had everything in Atlanta and the scene. It was a magical scene in terms of drag back then. So, all of the gays lived together in this area called Midtown, and there were never any drunken driving. I'm not saying that never, but everyone lived in that area. So it was just like, like a street scene, which is something that so many cities in this country lacks. A street scene. And which is why I will be in New York forever, probably.
Well, how did you and RuPaul meet? Like, how did that collaboration happen?
Through the Now Explosion, the band that we go danced with, and we were basically just like young, unestablished queens who. Well, Ru wasn't a drag queen, and we were very, very, very low rent, and were looked down upon by the more pageant-oriented, polished drag queens and trans performers. So but we carved out our little niche.
So, like, what would that niche be? Like what exactly?
Well, Ru was known to wear mohawks with wading boots up to his thighs, G-strings, all kinds of. These were the times of new wave. So there was something, everything we got was from thrift stores practically. So it was not the RuPaul that you see today. It was very polished and very well lit. And, I was wearing wigs that I found in thrift store, which the kind of wigs you find in thrift stores are often things that cancer patients have thrown away when they've passed. So it was not, luckily we were young and we could pull off a few more looks than with the benefit of youth. You can make a gray short wig look chic if you're drunk enough, I guess. I don't know.
Well, so how, like...
You can think it's chic.
What kind of... you said that y'all weren't really in the discos or anything like that. So what was it? Was it just rock clubs or was it... Like what were some of the types of venues in the day?
Well... We weren't booked at the big gay popular discos. We were booked at, there was a rock club called 688. I'm a former Miss 688 or 688. I'm saying it wrong. It's been so long. And Weekends was kind of like a more gay, disco. But, what used to happen in smaller towns and cities is that straight people, mingled with the gay community because they wanted to hear better music, better dance music. So we were known for our taste in music, and that kind of died along with Britney Spears. The era, which, it's like, so the gays used to have really great taste and people were drawn to their underground, experience. So it was always a bit mixed. And then when I came up to New York, I worked at a club that billed itself as drag queen owned and operated, which is the Pyramid Club, where, bands from, this is another, Guar to Delight to RuPaul got his start, Anthony and the Johnsons, a lot of independent, or alternative rock groups mixed in with drag queen theater. So, as I became a bit more known, then I would get booked at the gay places, but we all of the big clubs from Palladium to Limelight, there were a lot of gay people there and people who dressed up, whether drag or androgynous or but they weren't specifically gay clubs. They might have a gay night,
Yeah. What was your experience with GWAR like?
I didn't really have any, but I just watched a fantastic documentary. So when the Now Explosion went to Richmond, Virginia, they told me that they met a kind of out of drag queen named Dirt Woman. And the reason that she was called Dirt Woman is that the police picked her up, and to get them back, she pooped in the back of their squad car. And so just hearing about that drove me crazy. And I just watched a documentary called Dirt Woman about this person's life. And she went on, she was a little crazy, but she went on to become an activist and doing stuff with charity, ran for office in Richmond, Virginia. So I don't know how I got on that topic, but I just saw it. Anyway.
Well, GWAR is from Richmond.
Oh, GWAR. She appeared with GWAR with like naked, except for hair all over her privates with crabs on them, and it was some kind of crab thing. Now, GWAR was musically, that was something that I couldn't get into because it was a little bit too hardcore for me. But yeah, I mean, everything from trans women singing jazz to, whatever was there. Now, I heard you mention Gentle Giant, like some kind of feud. I haven't heard that name. I couldn't know many of their songs, but I might know it if I heard it. But yeah, I was there.
When I was there,
my rock taste was more new wave, so it was more things like the B-52s or, stuff like
that. REM? I mean, I know that's not new wave, but like you were talking Athens, so.
It's a little too guitar heavy for me, but sure, REM was one of those, yeah.
Were you The Cure?
No.
No, you're not a Cure fan? Ouch.
No. I mean, as I got older, disco was really where my heart was at. So I liked house music in the 90s. I liked disco house. I like some of the new house, but a lot of it. I've never gravitated that much to rock. I can appreciate good rock, but it's not what I go to listen for. It's not what I spin when I DJ. So,
what do you spin? I wanted to ask you that. Because I've never seen you spin. I hope to someday. But
well, nothing at all now. Nothing for 10 months. I mean, I was started to become a DJ when the clubs were I was working in big clubs and they were extremely druggy and the music was really hard techno. So they would always book me for an auxiliary room to provide something that was lighter or more underground or older, like disco, underground, rare funk kind of stuff. So I do DJ in New York at a regular weekly disco classic tea dance at the Monster, but everything is closed. And honey, like most performers or event planners or escorts or whatever, I'm sitting around, thinking, okay, you shut down my place of work, government, and I don't mind, I don't want to spread it and I don't want to get it, but you do need to pay me like the other countries because the performers are really hard hit. I mean, there is some online stuff, but it's not the same as from doing comedy. It's just not the same.
It's not the same. I mean, in my opinion, it is better than nothing, but it's so not the same. Have you done any like Zoom stuff or anything like that? Have you done any of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I had like 3 downloadable comedy specials that, one was at Christmas, one was at June, and a couple were related to drag race. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the first one I tried was everyone was saying that the delay was the star of the show between the other host. And so it was really like, as someone who doesn't know about tech stuff, the tech stuff really eats at me. So
Yeah, I mean, you gotta just, I feel like you gotta just make the most of the format. Like one of the things that I love to do whenever I do any kind of Zoom show, especially like, I did some colleges last semester because I don't get booked at many colleges anymore. And typically when I do, it's like an election year or something like that, where they want to bring in a political comic, and sometimes I will get booked. So, I got booked this fall some. And the one thing that I really like to do, because it's like, college kids, let's be honest, a lot of times they're too cool to laugh regularly. So if they're all in their dorm rooms away from each other on a Zoom call, they're definitely way too cool to laugh. You know what I mean? So you really got to just make it fun and engaging and stuff. So one of the things I would always do, especially at those shows, was I would do a sing along at some point. It's this parody song I wrote called Death Star Station, but I would do a sing along where they would all sing along at a certain part, and inevitably we would all be at different moments because of just inevitable lags from the connection. So we would just sound like, I would always say we sound like the world's greatest drunken choir. But it's just different ways you can try to make people feel like they're together when they're not actually together,
Yes, I see that, although I don't understand the super chats, and I'm just focused on getting the information. And I've seen a few recently that focused more on the chats, and I realize that's an income stream and they're providing valuable information that I am tuning into. But we can't be together, and it's gonna I don't want to be distracted by people just typing I love you. And, so I mean, that's always a little bit weird for me, because we're not going to be together. We're going to have to curtail everything from, audiences to dance floors to sex. And I do have a friend who plays drag bingo, Linda Simpson. And she does it once every Saturday. She's got the best way of involving people, because she will cut to them and you'll actually see who is making the comment, or they'll make, the comment live with audio. And often, because it's Saturday and everyone's cooped up, they will kind of dress up. So I've never seen a better audience interaction than that one. Then she might cut to some silly, person in a costume who's doing like a Carol O'Merrill, like a presenter for a game show, just like someone in a spokesmodel who's indicating the next package on The Price is Right. I know my references are ancient, but does that ring any kind of bell?
It's still around.
Okay.
I think it's still around.
I don't care. Carol O'Merrill was like before Vanna White, so that might clear it up.
Well, now it's a host now is Drew Carey, right? Like, isn't it? It's his thing, I think. Okay. Price is Right. I might be wrong. I don't know.
But don't they have like attractive women saying behind this door a car?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I haven't watched it in years. That's one of those shows that I always just associate with illness, because whenever I would get to watch The Price is Right as a kid, it was because I was homesick from school. Okay. So I just always just like, Price is the sore throat show. I remember that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like you associate it with like being homesick from school.
Right.
But here's something, getting on this. Here's a prediction that they made recently. Dr. Anthony Fauci thinks concerts could return this fall. Now, of course, that's assuming everything goes right with vaccines. This is an interview that he gave at the Association of Performing Arts Professionals a month or two ago. He seems to think Americans might be able to return to concerts this year. Now, of course, that hinges on 70 to 85% of the American population being vaccinated. Do you share that optimism? Do you think we're going to see live performances this year? I mean, I know we're all just guessing, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, that's how I make my living. So I would love for him to be right. He did say they could be back this fall. And he also said if a certain number of people, what did you say, 80% get the vaccine?
70 to 85
now,
is the goal, yeah.
Okay, but the last poll that I saw was probably 3 weeks ago, a month ago, and it said 45% were not going to get the vaccine. So maybe New York is an area where more people would get the vaccine, but you know, if that doesn't seem from that poll number, if that was one poll that said 45% won't get it, that's almost half. So how do you go from that a month ago? I mean, are they going to be watching to see that the healthcare workers and the seniors who get it don't die or don't have wild side effects? I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I saw a star, a friend of mine who's in show business, and I don't want to shame her, but she posted on her Facebook page, y'all get vaccinated or whatever. And then the first comment was her saying, I'm not going to be the first one to get it. I'm going to wait and see what happens with everybody else. And I thought, wow. So on the post is, get it, get the vaccine, get vaccinated. And then the first comment was kind of like, ooh, well, I'm not going to do it first. And we can't deny that, Black people, she's Black, have been used as guinea pigs in experiments, like the Tuskegee experiment, where they injected Black men in jail with syphilis from the 30s to the 70s. There was another pregnancy thing, that happened in Puerto Rico where they were experimented with. And, there's something in North Carolina like that. So if you do things like that, government, then when it's time for people to, get a vaccine, they're going to have real reasons to distrust it. I mean, and so listen, I don't follow anti-vaxxers and what their concerns are. I mean, when the whole thing started making headlines with Jenny McCarthy, I don't have children who I'm worried about having autism, and I also don't have children who I want everyone at their school to be vaccinated. So I don't know what their concerns are exactly. If the vaccine is a way to get rid of coronavirus, then that's great. But I did watch the Jimmy Dore show last night, and he said that it quoted a New York Times article, read screenshots of it, that said something about they were now going to possibly delay the second dose or what it was. And I hope I'm getting this right, but, and this is really bizarre, Trump was reserving millions of doses so that people could have their second dose in 21 or 29 days later. Both vaccines have different. One's 21, one's 29 days later. And so now the new policy of the Biden administration, it is, or the incoming Biden administration, is to give as many out as possible without worrying about a second dose. And that, I mean, if this New York Times thing Jimmy was quoting is correct, if all the science says that you're supposed to do it within 21 or 29 days, depending on which vaccine, and now you're just giving them all out and waiting till what, 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, is that going to work?
Yeah,
all I know is that it sounds like whatever happens, the pharmaceutical industry is going to get paid.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing, and the fact that just the distribution in general has been largely not great. I mean, it has not gone well at all. And the other side of it too is like you can't just sit on these things, because there's been other instances where these vaccines have just gone bad, and then it's just wasted. So it's
well, you also have to be very, very, very clear about telling people the truth always, and not having things come out like this in the New York Times that gives people who are conspiracy theorists or anti-vaxxers, like, oh, they're changing their tune. This. We wonder how all these people can think that Trump won the election that showed up at the Capitol. This is how. That you confuse the issue, and then that gives them a license to go into a rabbit hole and believe whatever they want to believe. So
yeah,
you got to be careful about that.
It's tough, and it's one of those. We are in a very odd time where I don't even think we're a 1 day at a time society right now. I think we're a 1 hour at a time society, because there's just so many still unknowns out there. And I'm with you, where it's like I cannot wait to get back to live performing as soon as it is safe and possible to do so. And man, I really hope that's fall. But I mean, I think that is, everything has to go right.
Yes, and let's file that fall reopening in the back of our heads, and just think we're screwed, but we're screwed for quite a while. And then if we're disappointed, if we're unscrewed, then goody tissues, So
what's the first thing you want to do when live performance comes back? Is it are you most excited to get back on stage? Are you most excited to see live music again? I mean, I can't wait to see live music.
No, honey,
again.
Sex with strangers. That is what I want more than anything. Sex with total strangers.
See, I'm married. That's not on my list. I'm married, so I can't, But live music and being on stage. Where do you think your first gig's going to be when this is all over?
Well, that disco tea dance at the Monster, which is hanging on, thankfully by a thread, is 4 blocks from here. So those are my people. I love to go spin that music. There's joy associated with that music. And, it because it's disco, it attracts an older crowd of people who were, there's plenty of younger people who come there too, but people who were out when that music was still in clubs. I mean, this is a long running, disco New York City event. So, but when I first got back from a tour in March, and February, and they were getting ready to close down in March, I took my last week off because I was like, I've been traveling all over the place. I don't want to come back here and kill my fan base if I've been exposed to the coronavirus. At that point, we knew absolutely nothing about it, whether or not people are, and plus that's like I said, it's an older crowd. So, I mean, listen, it's the thing that I think is going to be tough is that you pay to go into a club because it's a permissive environment where you're more likely to make out with a stranger, gyrate against a speaker while you disrobe. Do we need to have iron-fisted, regulations, and how long will we need to have them? Because I mean, I don't want to be a party pooper. Everywhere I work serves alcohol, and there may be drugs there too, but can we afford to go out and get crazy like that? I mean, are we still going to be sipping through our mask? I mean, how many times have I picked up someone else's drink, sipped it, and thought, that's not mine? Does that mean throwing, 12, 15 months of washing my hands until they're raw down the toilet? I don't know. I mean, no one knows. I mean, the question is, everything's a question mark, and I don't want to be a naysayer. So no, I read the thing about reopening in the fall, and I hope. I mean, I was trying to think, how would Broadway shows, what would they have to charge with all of those people on stage? Because if they have to socially distance the audience, and even after the vaccine, they've got to wear masks. I mean, if they're having a third of the audience, they have to really pack them in.
Yeah.
in, Broadway or movie theaters for that matter. But Broadway tickets are already $300 to $400. So how are you going to, I mean, are they going to be booking a lot of one-man shows, one-woman shows where they don't have
No
to
kidding,
pay
right?
as much? I have absolutely no idea. I mean, I would like to think that people like you and I who are eager to get back on stage, that we would, I mean, we will work as I did after 9/11 with, club owners when people were in shell shock. They were, out of, work for so long and needed cheering up and needed to feel like they were part, of a community. I mean, I did see your New Year's Eve greeting. And, one thing that was very touching is that you said that your podcast helps you from feeling alone. Well, I totally heard that because I live alone. At least you got a wife. I'm not saying that I want a wife, but, it's like there is a lot of loneliness, isolation. This is a really tough time for people mentally and economically. So yeah, I think we are sitting on a powder keg. And it's not just Trump supporters who are, incorrectly thinking that Trump has won the election. It's people who, by virtue of their situations, and I don't watch TV news, but I hope that I stopped watching the TV news when, every night Rachel Maddow had a bombshell. I used to love Rachel on Air America when she was, more progressive, but all those bombshells didn't really add up to much. And I thought all that time you could be running segments on how Canada's healthcare system worked to kind of destigmatize. If you actually cared about Medicare for all, you could, be comparing it to, it's not just Venezuela and Scandinavia. It's right upstairs, the exotic, terrifying Canada, but they didn't want to do those segments. And this is why I was so behind Force the Vote, because it wasn't the left just being reactionaries to the right and to Trump. It was saying, this is what we need. This is why we elected you. Now we've got thin but majorities in the House and the Senate and a Democratic president. Let's see what you can do. I mean, Biden did say he would veto Medicare for all, so that's not overly encouraging, but I would like to see more people making demands in addition to Force the Vote. So, I mean, demand nothing, you get nothing. I mean, we're not lobbyists with money to sugarcoat our demands. Our demands want them to do the opposite of what their campaign donors want. But as it is disgraceful to see what happened at the Capitol, it is disgraceful that we're the only advanced country without something like Medicare for all. I mean, this is not one of the worst examples of this, but I had to have surgery in August. It wasn't overly serious, but I had to do it, and it wasn't life-threatening. And so it didn't work right. There were complications, and so the doctor monitored it, and then went in and got an ultrasound, and he said, this is screwed up and we're going to have to operate again. So I had to run around, like crazy. I mean, this was a painful thing to heal up from. It took months. And now I had to quickly know, right before the holidays, you have to get another surgery on the same painful area. And the reason I had to do it quickly, and I was so lucky to get a second opinion quickly for this specialty thing, the surgery was $900. If I got it this year in December, it would have been $4,500 because of if I got it January 1st. So
why?
Because of the out of pocket I'd already
Oh,
paid my out-of-pocket stuff with the first surgery. So this is not even something like insulin. This is hopefully done with now. And, I don't want to compare, the people who are struggling to pay, for insulin with that. But it's like when you tell people to this in other countries, they cannot believe it. A
yeah.
surgery would multiply by I know you're thinking clearly it wasn't plastic surgery. No, but it was I mean that was really awful. I mean, I had just healed up from this surgery. I haven't had a lot of surgeries. And I literally had to like run outside and meet some friends and get some sunlight into my eyes and get some exercise before I put myself in that situation again to where I wouldn't be able to lift anything for 2 weeks or risk having the sutures. And, like I said, this is playing on everyone's mental health. Mine may not have ever been that stable to begin with. So, I mean, these are the kind of choices that we have to make. And this is the kind of healthcare that we get. I spend 1/2 of my rent on healthcare. So saving money is very difficult because I was in and out of town so much. I chose a more expensive plan on Health First because I did not have time traveling like I was to go in if there's something wrong with me, make a tough to get appointment with my primary care physician, who then green lights me seeing a specialist, which this surgeon was. So, like I say, thank God I was able to get a second opinion within a couple of days, or I would have paid the $4,500 instead of the $900. So,
and and you mentioned this, and it's so. Are you doing better now, or is everything
I'm
good now?
fine. It seems to be
Good.
healing up, and like I say, it was never anything life-threatening, or but it needed to be taken care of. But because I'd also had an endoscopy, and I don't even know if I said that right, and this other surgery that was supposed to heal up right and did not, and had to go in and correct it. I'd eaten up that 2020's out of pocket or annual. My mother's a nurse. Thank God she helps me through this. So.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, when you bring this up to people in other countries, they don't even know what to say. They're just like, "What is that?" Like people say, like, "Oh man, they're laughing at us." It's like, no, they're not. It's worse than that. They're not laughing at us. They're just at this point, they're just looking at us with like concern and terror in their
Yes.
eyes. They're like, "What are you guys doing?"
Well, exactly, and so I mean, they're looking at us concerned because of the Capitol, and they're looking at us concerned, along with the insurance situation. And I tried; it didn't work out, but I tried to make a video when I was touring in February in Scotland, and I interviewed a couple of people, a drag queen friend. And she said that, okay, get this, because her tax dollars go to things like the National Health Service, which is their healthcare system in the UK, she doesn't hate paying her taxes. I mean, if you feel that the government is actually taking care of you, maybe we wouldn't see tax. I mean, no one wants to give away money, but if it's money that, is going to your health care, making it affordable, if it is money going to a social safety net, if it's money going to Social Security, I'm 58. Joe Biden has tried to cut Social Security for decades. And, although people do not know it because they're so busy saying that he's my favorite president. I mean, I voted for him twice too, but Obama did try to cut Social Security with those chained CPI cuts as part of that grand bargain. And if I'm not mistaken, that was one reason that Bernie decided to run, because for those who, Democrats don't cut Social Security. So we've got to be careful, I mean, I know that viewers of your show are going to be aware of this, that we don't run so far from Trump or Mitch McConnell like boogeymen on the right that we run into the arms of someone who has not had the interest of most working Americans at heart for decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
I think
who doesn't like Social Security? And as with the Iraq War and his support for it, Biden lied during his campaign about that. He lied about Social Security, and Bernie did not take him to task for it as he should. Bernie, Bernie, always accused of yelling, I think should have said, Joe Biden wants to cut your security. Here's the Social Security. Here is the video proof of it. And when CNN, they let the Biden campaign get away with claiming that, oh, those tapes were doctored. Well, I mean, they were edited, to show the part where he said, Social Security's on the table, proudly, so this is, we can't run so far away from, yes, I'm glad that Trump, lost and that we got away from him, but we've got to be choosier on the left if we value things like Social Security that everyone, wants, everyone likes. And I don't know how that doesn't concern people, because most people are, not most people I know, but a lot of people I know are around my age and either relying on Social Security now or about to. And I'm like, you can't be so blinded to Trump that you run to someone who wants to cut the social safety net. But oops, it's too late.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I think that, you bring up other countries where it's like, if you were to have a conversation with someone from like Denmark or something like that, and you were saying, yeah, paying our taxes, we're going to get, they wouldn't even understand. You're like, I mean, they might understand because they know what the United States is like, but they wouldn't, to them, that's just unheard of like, oh yeah, my taxes, I'm getting ripped off. Because to them, like, well, our government, they provide these services for us. They give us healthcare. They give us all these things. And half of our friends and family work in these social services. And that's what we pay taxes for. And we see what we get for it. Where here in the United States, well, we're just a corporate coup empire. So
well, and half of that money is going to be for wars that end up being baseless. So, this is something that I've loved hearing progressives say of late. This is our money. We should not have to beg you for our money. If these are voters' priorities, and 88% or 70% of what voters say that they want Medicare for all, then you need to represent us, or you may not be Trump, but you're not representing the vast majority. So how is that representative government? We should not have to beg you for our priorities, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Lady Bunny, thanks so much for talking with me today. I've been wanting to have you for a long time. We've been going back and forth for a while. I'm so glad I was finally able to have you. Where can people go to learn more about you?
At Lady Bunny 77. That's not my age, it's my waist size. On Twitter, if you like political stuff, if you like silly stuff, I'm on Instagram at official_lady_bunny.
Thanks so
much. And here's to those clubs reopening up in fall for your sake and my sake too, honey, because these wigs are getting kind of ratty, and I hadn't had a new tube of lipsticks since March.
The
eyelashes have boogers all over them from mascara, and honey, let's not mention dentistry. I tried to go to the dentist, and they made me they tried to make me sign something that said, because the particles of the coronavirus fly up during spittle, so that you have to sign this thing that if you get COVID here. And I was like,
Oh,
I've
wow.
I've got a mask on, so no one's really gonna smell my breath or see my cavity riddled,
Yeah.
teeth. So I guess I can wait another year for the dentist. Okay.
That's what I did too. Yeah, I just realized I'm like, oh, I just paid for dental insurance for a year that I just did not use it. Like I didn't get to go. And I've had the same stick of deodorant all year too. I've had the same stick of deodorant because I never get to go anywhere.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm like, why waste the money? What?
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna get close enough to smell you. So, what? I mean, you have a wife, so maybe maybe that's
Well,
a concern to you.
yeah, I mean, I am mindful of that, but she's typically not home during the day, and I mean, she was for a while because she lost her job because of COVID, but she has since gotten a new one. So yeah, so it's just me and the cat, and I don't think Lucy cares or notices that sort of thing. And then usually when she is home, it's it's post shower. So yeah, anyway, that's
Lucky her, Ron. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lady Bunny. Thank you so much. Guys, we'll be back on Monday, and you know the drill in the meantime. We're working on getting the channel remonetized. In the meantime, you can always support the show, patreon.com/Ron Placone. And, of course, I put my Venmo there, too, if you are on stable ground and interested. And we'll be back Monday. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. Follow Lady Bunny, Lady Bunny77 on Twitter. And Lucy says meow. And I say peace. Peace.
All right.